Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. Joining me today is Nan Pasquarella, Director of Career Services, and our speaker for today is Jen Scopo, class of 2004. Today, we ask everyone to keep their mics on mute. We ask everyone if you could put your name in the chat just to say hello. And then at the end of the program, we will have a Q&A, and we ask that you write your questions in the chat. If you do have some questions throughout the time, feel free to put them in the chat, and if we get a few seconds, we'll definitely ask Jen the questions. And now I turn it over to Nan.
Thank you so much, Shauna. So welcome everyone for joining us today, and I'd like to say a very special thank you to our presenter, Jen Scopo. Jen's passion has always been the key driver in her life and career. She lives by the motto, forget regret, and is always tuned into when her instincts are paving the path for her. There have been three pivotal moments in her life when she completely changed her life course over a lunch conversation. The first led her to the Academy of Finance in high school. The second led her to her master's degree, and the third to her 14-year career with the Little Gym franchise. As Jen continuously does in her own life, she's always looking for ways to help others leverage their passions, their instincts, and their natural talents. So today, Jen is going to share with us her advice on fearless salary negotiation. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks, ladies, and thanks for inviting me to join here today. I'm really excited to chat with you. It feels like a lifetime since I was upstate in Cortland. It's actually been 16 years somehow. I started out my career looking toward the future when I was first going into college, of thinking I would end up in business and economics. I actually started at St. John's down in Queens, visited a friend of mine up at Cortland, and immediately decided that was a better place to be. So I transferred up sophomore year. I took a ton of econ courses, a ton of psych courses, fell in love with psychology, and ended up getting my master's in industrial organizational psychology. Absolutely sounds like gibberish. I promise it's a real thing. It takes that combination of what makes a business successful and how to motivate people and tap into their talents to really kind of couple those together for ultimate success and employee morale, motivation, and all of those great things. I, as Nan mentioned, worked in training for about 14 years with a franchise called the Little Gym. It's actually what got me to leave New York and live in this desert that I now love out in Arizona for about 14 years now. And about 2 years, I launched my own consulting company, which was really my main passion and kind of career focus once I really fell in love with the psych side of it. So that's the part I'm going to tap into with you guys today, that we're really going to talk about how to negotiate a salary, because it's so important to define your value as an employee. And it's one of those base things that really determines how you feel about the organization you work for. That, of course, there's a ton of other factors that come into play. If you're happy with your career, if you feel valued, but that first base one is literally feeling valued based on what you're receiving in compensation. I am not afraid to say that I am all about my career in terms of I am happy to put as much money in my bank as I possibly can, and finding that work balance with actually enjoying what I'm doing. So for today, we're going to stick with the first side of that. In order to cover that today, we'll talk about a few mindsets that are going to help you be successful here, and some of those mindsets that probably are blockers to doing this successfully, which might be what led you to join here today. We're going to talk about how to prepare and plan for this discussion, some creative compensation to consider in these negotiations as well, some really clear do's and don'ts, and we'll pull it all together with some of those talking points. There will be a few times throughout the presentation I'm going to ask for your input. I know group calls can be really awkward and frankly can take us really far off track. And I'm a talker as it is, so really in an effort to maximize our time as well. But as we're going through, feel free to drop questions in the chat, commentary. There will be a few times in particular I will ask you to participate. If you don't want to do so publicly, feel free to send me direct private messages, and I will assume that you want those to be anonymous, but this way you can still contribute to the conversation. So let's get started with some of those mindsets. First opportunity to drop it in the chat. There's a lot of fears that come with negotiating salary. it often comes in terms of, I don't know if I'm worthy of this salary. They're probably going to say no. Maybe it'll put my job in jeopardy by having them think I'm not happy with what I'm doing or I'm not getting paid enough. They might look to get someone else to replace me for less money. A lot of these fears come to mind, which make you hesitate. Frankly, women tend to have more of these fears. So if you are of the female gender, you might feel that even a little bit more, that you tend to question yourself a little bit more. If you're not one of those people, sweet, awesome, more power to you. But it's definitely a mindset that limits a lot of people in general from really taking advantage of this opportunity and really not considering or being willing to put themselves out there for it. Yep, exactly. I see a couple of these chats coming in over here. Exactly. Just thank you for reiterating that it's definitely that hesitation of really considering what your value is there and wanting to make sure that you're heard seriously, but not seen as someone who's complaining or unhappy with what they're doing. So keeping all of that in mind, it's going to start with preparing and really planning how this conversation is going to go. You really want to arm yourself with all of the information necessary to be able to make a credible, valid case to really identify why you're worthy of this, how it's going to benefit the company, and to sound really intelligent and professional in doing so. And that's going to start with the preparation that goes into it. So, first, you have to know what the typical salary is for your position. There are a ton of resources online where you can find out, based on your title, your experience, your education, what on average is that salary. If you find that you're way below that average, that's going to give you really good information and data to land on. Excuse me, that's going to give you a little more credibility that, people in this position often make X amount. What do I need to do to be in that bracket? As we go through these, start thinking about how you would discuss these or approach these. When we get to the end, like I said, is where we'll pull it together with some of these talking points. So don't get hung up on those right now. Know what your full compensation package options are. Keep in mind that compensation is way more than just your base salary. It includes those benefits, vacation time, a lot of those other intangibles, and organizations do take those into consideration when they're creating comp plans. So know what those options are. We're going to dive into this in particular in just a minute, but really consider where the company's perspective is, what they're willing to offer, what they may already offer that you're not taking advantage of, and what some of those typical options are out there in the marketplace. So you have a little bit more to negotiate from and a little bit more than I need more money coming directly out of the company's pocket, as opposed to what are some things that they can add that will really add value that isn't going directly pulling from their bottom line. Know what performance data you're being measured against. So what are you expected to do? How well do you achieve that? And the more you can put hard metrics and data to that, the more you're going to strengthen this case. So whether it's based specifically on a performance review, here's how I get scored in these areas. If you're in sales and you can actually measure your success by dollar amounts and anything in between, really think about how can I define and measure my success in this role, because that's going to give you some really clear data that they really can't debate. If you could really show, here's the value I bring, here's the success that I've had. Keep in mind what those maybe promises were you were made when you were hired, or if there were benchmarks. If you were told you're starting at this salary, we'll do a review after 90 days, and then look to bump you up X percentage, keep a pulse on that. I'm not saying everyone is dishonest, but there's a chance that conversation's not going to happen if you don't bring it to the table. If you don't go back to your supervisor and say, hey, it's been great. I've loved being here for the past, 90 days, whatever that time frame was. When I was hired, we discussed doing a salary review at this point in time, and I'd love to have that conversation with you. So really keep a pulse on those and don't be afraid to hold them to that. Know what the company's WIFM is. What's in it for me? Everyone functions from this position, but especially organizations. And especially right now, there are definitely industries right now that are proving to be COVID proof and recession proof and are thriving. That's not necessarily the case across the board. And thinking beyond, hopefully there's a beyond in this, and we get to the next phase of the world where we can say this was the past, but always know what the company's perspective is going to be and take it from that angle of here's how this is going to bring more value to you. Here's what I'm going to be able to do with this added responsibility, with this added value and trust that you're putting in me. And really take it from kind of that psychological magic of let me persuade you and show you what a great idea this is. And let me help you think that this was your idea. If you're a fan of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's the husband may be the head of the household, but the wife is the neck, and the neck can turn the head any way she wants to. This is going to help you be the neck. And then frankly, know what the laws are. Are they required to give you X amount of leave, vacation, other things my mind just completely blanked out on? But know what those regulations are, because again, that's going to give you more information. So you have all this great data in your mind. You're prepared. You know exactly what those important points are and how you're going to be able to make an airtight case. Now you have to plan to actually figure out how you're going to present that case and how you're going to do it in a way that's professional and collaborative, not going in there with, here's the 20 reasons you owe me money, let's make this happen. That's not going to work in your favor. So really figuring out how to structure that, how to approach it. You need strong answers to some of those tough questions they're going to ask you. So sit down and think, first of all, what are your worst fears? What is something that if they ask you, you know you would go ghostly white and have no idea what to say in response to them? So really consider what are those hardest things they can ask that can really throw you off your game, and prepare answers to those. And then know what questions you need to ask them. We'll get into this a little bit more as we go through the presentation as well, but really getting a clear understanding from them of what did they consider success? What are their benchmarks? What's their flexibility? Where do they have the ability to give more and where are they limited? So that can help you figure out what's realistic. And what your expected follow-up is and what you expect their follow-up to be. And of all of these things, role play. That means practice. I am a trainer by trade and I despise role playing. Absolutely hate it. But it is a necessary evil. It is very different to read something off of a screen or off of your notes versus actually saying it out loud. When you're saying it out loud, you're practicing those answers, you're practicing presenting your case. It's going to help you feel more confident and comfortable doing that in the moment. What kind of questions can you anticipate from those tough questions? That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So when you get to those tough questions, it might be things that seemingly sound easy on the front end of what is your expected salary? This is actually going to paint you into a corner where you may leave money on the table that they would have been willing to pay you, but you've just told them that they don't have to. So being prepared for questions along those lines, we'll get into some of these as we get into the dialogue, but hopefully that gives you a little more insight. And both of those questions were about tough questions. Okay, great. I hope that makes a little bit more sense for now. And if you need a little more context on that, feel free to drop it back in the chat and I will circle back to it. So really, main message here, make sure you have the information that's going to support a professional case and that you're really prepared to have that discussion. Now, one of the things I mentioned is knowing what your full compensation options are. This means getting creative with your compensation. Again, yes, you want your base salary increased. Absolutely. That's what I meant by keep putting money in my bank. I want that. I need that. I would absolutely love to have that. Sometimes it's not realistic for a company to pay more than that. They may not be willing to, but there's a lot of other ways that you can be compensated that they're not directly paying you more money. Now, indirectly, it is costing them, but it's not reflecting in their bottom line, which is going to speak volumes to the shareholders that are making decisions, to the owners of the company, however the structure of the organization is. that you're looking for other ways to be compensated that doesn't reflect their numbers, but is actually going to give you more flexibility and a better life balance. I'm going to quickly run through this list because most of them will be pretty straightforward, and then highlight a few of them. And yes, all of these are completely within the realm of possibility of things that companies actually do. So don't think that you'd be completely reaching by asking for some of these. So quick run through. Tuition assistance or reimbursement. Loved my time at Cortland. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to pay back those loans. I feel like I'm going to be paying them well into retirement before I even start paying for my kids' college. So definitely companies are willing to do that. A change in title. Now, this obviously isn't compensation, but this will speak volumes to showing your career progression and to giving you more clout, maybe more responsibility that's going to set you up for that raise moving forward. So don't underestimate the power of that title. A professional development stipend. Are they willing to pay you to better your skills? That, of course, is going to benefit them in some way, but is really going to help you get better and improve to either have that raise or promotion there or set you up for your next position. More vacation time. This is more of a, it's coming out of their pocket, but only if they're really paying someone for when you're out. But this speaks volumes to your life balance and flexibility. And a lot of companies will be willing to do this because statistics show us Americans do not take advantage of our vacation time, that a lot of us leave it sitting on the table. So they might be willing to be pretty flexible with this. Having a flexible schedule. This is something that companies are finally seeing the benefit of because they're seeing with everything that's happening in the world right now, which those companies that are able to and permitting their employees to work from home and working different hours, that productivity is actually increasing, not decreasing. This is something that I really take advantage of. I run my own consulting company. I also work full time for a company that brought me on earlier this year. It started out as a contract. They really wanted just more longevity in our relationship. And I work from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I can get some time in before my kids wake up. I can get that focus time when the house is quiet. I'm most focused in the afternoon. By about 2 o'clock, my brain takes a hiatus and I'm not being productive anyway. So you may as well not pay me to work at that time. And then I have the afternoon free to be with my kids, to manage my household, to spend time with my wife. So that really, I promise you, will have a huge impact on your work-life balance if you don't already experience this. And again, it's something that companies are a lot more receptive to right now in particular. See if there's an opportunity for stock options. Now, having options in a company doesn't mean the company is publicly traded. So even if you're working for a company that's not public, a lot of companies will still give their employees equity in the company because they know that it gives you a little more teeth in the game where you're more committed to the company's success because you're benefiting from that in the long term as well. Company car. This might be the most lofty on this. I don't know that companies still do this. Some do, so find out what your options are. Some sort of on-site daycare or daycare subsidy. If you have children, you know that paying for daycare is like paying for another college tuition. So if there's some flexibility here, this will keep money in your pocket, even though it's not coming out of theirs, although it is in some way. Oh, great point in the chat about sometimes they'll offer mileage reimbursement. Totally on the same page there, Joe, because we're going to get there in a minute also. Parking privileges. If you are from the New York area and you're working down in the city, you absolutely know the impact of this if you somehow choose to fare out every day in a car as opposed to public transportation. But parking privileges. A guaranteed severance package. This is huge, particularly in an environment like we're facing right now. Little known fact, companies are not required to pay you severance when they fire you, at least in most states that I'm aware of. This, again, is not money in your pocket right now, but this is absolutely peace of mind for moving forward. So this might be a huge negotiating point that will really benefit you moving forward. A 401k match, if that's something they offer and is available. This is one of those things, they either do it or they don't. You can't force a company to start doing this if they don't already, but this is definitely a negotiation aspect, other compensation. Relocation, where that's applicable. having a work from home setup stipend. Again, particularly right now, that's why this is the third green one on the screen. This is something where if they're allowing you to work from home, a lot of companies are offering a stipend of either a flat fee, go buy the equipment you need, get the desk, get the chair, get all of that type of setup, or here's an ongoing stipend to pay for your internet service, for your cell phone service, because you're now using those for work, not just for personal. Know what kind of health benefits are offered. I'm a big fan of when a company has an HSA account. That means you have your regular health benefits, but there's some money that comes directly from your paycheck, goes into a savings account that you specifically use for health related costs, tax free. The extra bonuses, oftentimes companies will contribute to these for you every month or every paycheck as well. Huge. I can't tell you how often we use that account. The money accumulates in a beautiful way that really helps with any medical expenses, even things like over the counter drugs, prescriptions, those types of things. Some sort of wellness program that can mean a number of things based on the organization. Knowing what opportunities there are for a bonus structure. This is something where even if they don't necessarily have one in place for your position, they may be willing to create one. This again benefits them because you're showing improved performance and you're having a significant impact and making a difference, that they'd be willing to let you benefit from that as well. So there's always an opportunity to look to create one of these, even if it doesn't exist. And going back to someone mentioned in the chat a few minutes ago, in terms of having those commuter subsidies. So whether it's paying for a parking, your train passes every month, paying for reimbursing your mileage, all of those types of things. And there's some great commentary happening in the chat that I think is public. So feel free to check that out. These are some of those options to keep in mind for creative compensation. Now, the key here is you have to know which of these are most important to you, which would show the most value, and you have to be prepared to throw those into the negotiation when the time comes. So we're going to do a quick activity. You're going to do this on your own. Feel free to drop your answers in the chat if you would prefer to. Choose your top comp. The trainer, it has to rhyme or be an alliteration or something like that. So drop some things in there or jot them down for yourself of if you had to pick your top 3 to 5 or something else that would be of value to you that kind of spurred your thinking through all of that, jot down what those are, because that will absolutely kind of give you that frame of where would I start? What impact would that make? Hopefully that was enough rambling to give you a second to actually answer those. Just check out the chat really quickly while you guys are jotting those down. Someone's off to their next class. Awesome. Thanks for joining. Hope this was a good use of your time so far. Companies will do. Yes, there will definitely be companies that will look to give you a title only increase to avoid giving you a raise. That is something for you to consider. I would take it in the interim because, again, it's going to show your career progression on your resume. You're able to say, I was promoted, I had this new title, I had these new responsibilities, and you can use that as you begin seeking your next career. That would be my move if they were choosing to continuously not compensate me effectively, but were willing to at least make my career look like it's growing. So don't completely shut it down, but keep a thought there. Awesome. Some great things coming in. Priority, 401k match, change in title, HSA account, daycare subsidy. I feel you on that one. Flexible schedule. Awesome. All right. So keep thinking through those. I'm going to keep moving forward because I'm probably about to get more rambling. I know we're already halfway through our time today. So next up, you have in your mind the mindset. You're going to get over the fear. You recognize that it's important for you to be valued, and it is absolutely acceptable for you to identify that and to request it. You're going to prepare, you're going to plan, you're going to role play as much as you may hate it, and really know what those creative options are for that compensation as kind of that icing on the cake, or to bridge the gap if they can't come up to the salary that you want. Now let's talk about when you actually have that conversation. Here's some really clear do's and don'ts. Do get it in writing. I don't care who the person is, how much you trust them. You want that in writing to go back to. And we're going to talk about some specific dialogue to get that to happen if they don't do it organically. Figure out where they're flexible and where they're not. I mentioned this earlier, but I really wanted to circle back and double click on this to make sure that we're really clear on this, that there are some times when they say, I don't have the budget to do it, that they simply don't. Or it might be something like they don't have a relationship with an organization to do a 401k, so they can't do anything for you there. So really know and understand that, and don't try to play hardball with something that's completely unrealistic or out of their power. Again, find their with them. What's in it for me? How are you going to make them see that this will benefit them? It'll benefit the company's bottom line, and what your role will be in that. You have to know what you need. Now, we're going to talk in a minute about not putting all your cards on the table and telling them exactly what that is right off the bat. But you have to know in your mind, here's my dream salary. Here's my minimum requirement. I have to be here. I have to make this much money. I could get by with this. And where's my, I really want to be here. So really know what your needs are and what that range is. And when you're communicating, you need to be clear, speak firmly, and really use neutral language, that you're not inflaming a conversation. You're not throwing accusations of, you owe me this much money. I should be making this much money. Here's what the data says. And this is why I'm right. Really being clear that you're having a professional negotiation, a collaborative discussion, and you're really looking to bring them into that conversation so it benefits everyone. And again, the dialogue will demonstrate this. Don't tell them an amount first and then don't tell them an amount. Put it on them to make the first offer. Again, you may have something in your mind that they're willing to pay you $5,000, $10,000 more than that, give you an extra week of vacation beyond what you considered. If you put something out there lesser than what they are offering or what they're willing to pay, they're not going to turn around and say, oh, wow, we were actually willing to go up another 10 grand from that. But if you're good from this, they're going to say, okay, great. Yep, we can totally make that happen, and make it feel like they're doing you a favor. Great questions of how you get them to make the offer. That's specifically covered in the dialogue, Heather. So when we get there, if that didn't address your question, please let me know and I can expand on that. So make them tell you first and make that offer, so then you can really see kind of where that flexibility is. Don't focus on what you need rather than the company value. There's a lot of people who will tell you to go in there and, have the personal conversation, the person to person of, my family's struggling with this, my wife is pregnant, we have these medical bills, we really need to move, we have this daycare cost. All of those things might be valid to you based on your relationship with your direct manager, may help them want to go to bat for you more. But if that's your focus, if that's your main driver, that's not going to get you where you want to be. Don't request too many changes when you counter offer. So whether this is a new job or a promotion within your existing organization, if you come back with, well, I need this and I need that, and this isn't there, you're just going to make them put a lot of work and effort in. It's going to put a negative taste in their mouth about your approach to this, and they're going to be less willing to negotiate. So really know what those top things are. Again, that salary you have to have, your dream salary, and those top creative compensation choices that are really going to put it over for you. Avoid giving them the, well, everyone wants me line. And this will come into another point in a minute about ultimatums. Especially if this is with a new position, this is going to make them think, you know what, even if we put all the work and effort into doing this, even if me as the manager, if I try to go get this passed through with my CFO, and then I turn around and this person turns me down, that's not giving me the credibility to have a solid conversation with that moving forward. So if everyone wants them, let them go someplace else. Don't negotiate one by one. When they give you back an offer, here's your vacation, here's your salary, here's your benefits. Don't say, all right, let's first address the salary. Great, we got that where it needs to be. Now let's address the benefits. That puts a lot of work on their side. And the person that you're speaking to, unless you work directly for executive level, they most often are going to have to go talk to someone else and get this run by. If it goes out of their range, you can go up to this much salary, this much vacation. Just about every hiring manager has that in their back pocket, knowing what those limits are and where they're able to just say, yes, I can do this, or where they need to go back and negotiate for you. If you do it point by point, you're giving them a lot of extra work, and you're making their people internally a little frustrated with, why does this person need so many things? Why aren't they happy with the offer yet? So really know what those one or two things are that you really want to focus on right there, and do them all at once so they know exactly what's valuable to you and can have a conversation on your behalf. And again, circling back to this because it's that important, don't give ultimatums. That's not going to create that collaborative conversation. It's not going to let them think that you're really in it to benefit the company as well. And this is going to speak negatively about you. Whether it's in, again, seeking a new job, can definitely work strongly against you, or even in your current company, they may see you as someone who's no longer engaged and willing to really work for the organization and put your best effort forth. So when it comes time to make transitions or promotions, you're probably not going to be too high on that list. So keep these tactics in mind as you're preparing, as you're planning. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. How do you say this? What do you do? How do you approach this? A bunch of questions have come in the chat throughout the conversation. So if there's specific things, how do I say this part of the conversation? Put it in there. Specific places where you're like, I really don't want to talk about this, but you said to, how do I do it? Whatever those questions are, if you have them, put them in there. Let's first start with during the interview process. So you're looking at a new position. What are some of those key points in the conversation? And I don't remember if this came through privately or not, so I won't say your name, of when they, how do you get them to make the offer first? These are going to be your dialogue points to get you there. So first, the recruiter asks you that, what is your current salary? This is one of those places to know the law. There are a lot of places that this was a recent transition from some legislation that was passed down in the past year or two, I believe, where they are not allowed to ask this question, or you are not required to answer it. Know what that is. Don't come out and say, legally, you're not allowed to ask me that. Not a great tone for an interview, but know for yourself if that's the case or not. Your response, I'm really not comfortable sharing that information. I'd prefer to focus on the value I can add to this company and not what I'm paid at my current job. Or, I really want this next position and next move of mine to be a huge jump in terms of responsibility, impact, and compensation. So I'd rather focus on that part of the discussion. Second part to that is, okay, so then what's your expected salary? In my opinion, salary is always negotiable. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the value of the position and how the talents I can contribute really balance out. If they are still pushing it after this point, trust your instincts and how to handle the rest of that conversation. But know in your mind, they're looking for a deal. They're not looking for talent, which isn't going to speak well for you moving forward. This is the company where it's going to be difficult to get promotions. They're likely to give you a lot of responsibility, expecting you to just squeeze it in with your current job, not compensate you for it. You want an organization that is investing in talent and looking to let you grow and be innovative and impact the company, not just how can I get a good deal and get the work done and get the most out of this person. So this kind of double layered approach is usually a really effective tactic of deflecting it. Most hiring managers and directors that are doing the interviews will appreciate this perspective, and you're putting it on them. You're phrasing it. And I want to know what your thoughts are on the value of this position and how I can contribute, because it's really looking negatively on their part if they're not willing to say or acknowledge what you can bring to that and how they value this position within the organization. They have to frame it positively for you. So they're going to have to answer that, or again, indicate to you they're just looking for a deal. Hopefully that gives a little more context there and answers that question. Again, if not, feel free to drop it in the chat. Next one, how do you make sure they get it in writing? First of all, this is almost never a problem I've had. There's been maybe one discussion internally as I was looking to advance or promote that they didn't just organically give it to me in writing. It also benefits them. Particularly if you're looking at a new job, when they send you an offer letter, it should detail all of the compensation that was negotiated. In the event that that doesn't happen, let's talk internally first. Really easy. After the meeting, send an email to your supervisor. It was great chatting with you today. I really appreciate you being willing to negotiate this. I'm really excited about my future with the company, blah, 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 stroke their ego, talk about how great the organization is, and then drop in there just to make sure I didn't miss anything and I got everything accurately. Here's what we discussed. Is this accurate? Did I miss anything? They reply to your email and they have to say yes or no. Now, is an email set in stone, can't be edited? Absolutely not. But for the organization, for them, they'll know, okay, we did discuss this. So easy way to do it internally if it's not happening organically. Here's how to do it otherwise. I'm so thrilled to hear back from you, and I can't wait to review the details of the written offer. When would you like to have my response by? Really assumptive close. I'm assuming you're sending this to me. I'm really excited about moving forward. Similar tone as to the email I just mentioned. And really that assumptive, when do you want my response? So I want to know what my role is, what's my responsibility, taking that ownership of it yourself. That will prompt them to, oh, okay, I'll have it to you and I need it back within 24 hours. Other way to approach that, as of this time, I see no reason not to accept this position. I just feel more comfortable having a written offer in hand. I can't imagine any director, hiring manager seeing this as a negative. So don't be afraid to put it out there. This is a safeguard for you. And if a company's not willing to put it in writing, huge red flags, huge sirens, definitely take note of that. Give me a second if anyone's jotting this down. I'm so thrilled to hear back from you and can't wait to review the details of the written offer. When would you like to have my response by? As of this time, I see no reason not to accept this position. I just feel more comfortable having a written offer in hand. Totally legit, totally valid. Next one, negotiation and counter offer. This is where, even though I can tell you all day how to do this, I take a breath and, okay, this is the hard part. This is where I have to come back and say, no, this doesn't work for me. Here's what I need instead. These tactics will help you smoothly have that conversation. This is where your preparation comes in. This is where knowing what those ranges are, knowing what you need, knowing what your top creative compensation options are. So let's take a look. Thank you so much for the offer. As I mentioned during my interview process, I am speaking with a couple of other companies. Note, that's not everyone wants me. Here's an ultimatum. If you're able to move the pay to $1 billion, I'd be eager to accept. So it tells them it's okay to go to bat for me, because if you can do this, I'm accepting your offer. Not go to bat for me, but everyone wants me. So if they can come in higher, that's it, I'm done. That's why the tonality here is different, because you're saying if you're able to move the pay to this number, again, know what you need, don't go low because they'll take it. I'd be eager to accept. If you want any clarification on kind of what that tonality difference is, again, pop it in the chat. Now, if you can do this number, I'm on board. If you have to stick, or rather, if the company's then telling you, I can't do this, this is the number I have to do. I understand that the best you can do is 53,000. If you can't come up to my number, if you can do the 53,000 and offer an extra week of paid vacation each year, I'm on board. So you're making it clear, here's the number I need. But if you can't go past the number you told me, here's my creative compensation that's going to seal the deal. And again, I'm on board. This is worthy of your time. This will work. I will take the position, eagerly take the position, and you'll feel good about it. So these, again, I'll give you a second if you're jotting any of this down. I believe, actually, I know this is also being recorded, so you'll have it to refer back to as well. But this is where, again, that prep comes in. Don't be afraid to ask and know what your options are, so you can put that in as, you can't do this. Okay, I recognize that. I'm not going to push you on something you're telling me is unreasonable or beyond your abilities. So throw this extra thing here, not necessarily taking money directly out of your pocket. And I'm on board. This will be worth your time. There's this cool calculator that I found, URL on the bottom of the screen. Also, if you just search this, I'm sure you'd find it. This is going to help you calculate a counter offer. So you'll see some point going to put in the base salary that they're offering. How badly do you need to accept? How badly do you need the job? Or do they need you to accept the job offer? So this will be kind of on gut instinct, but hopefully you'll have some reasonable idea there. Your minimum acceptable salary, and then any other non-salary benefits. So this is where that creative compensation is coming in. Input all of this and it'll give you here's a reasonable counter offer. So you're not going completely off base. We'll give you a little more confidence there as well. So check that out, see if it helps you. All right, so those are the dialogue points. One more aspect here with having this conversation. A lot of that can be used for internal promotion or coming into a new position. This one is specifically, you want to have a conversation with your supervisor about having that compensation increase. Set it up in an email first. Really let them know, I want to have this discussion with you. I'll pull the email up in a second so you can see what it says. But it's okay to give them the heads up. They can come to the conversation prepared. They won't feel caught off guard by it, because even for the director or the whoever your supervisor is, they might feel a little defensive of, okay, didn't know you weren't happy with your salary. Now I have to go do this work to increase this. And it might kind of shut down the conversation a little bit or limit how much they're actually listening to you. So here's a way to initiate that conversation. As we discussed, it's been X number of months since my last significant salary adjustment or since I was hired. And I'd like to revisit my salary now that I'm contributing much more to the company. I've been researching salaries for my title, my industry, whatever. And it looks like midpoint is around this. I'd like to request a raise to this salary. Find a way to highlight some of your accomplishments and accolades. Don't make this a 5-page dissertation. Here's why I'm amazing and deserve this. Highlight means highlight. I'd love to work with you to put together a clear action plan and timeline so we can continue this discussion and monitor my progress as I work toward my goal. This is saying, hey, I don't expect you to turn around and put the stamp on this. I really want to work with you. I'm willing to put the work and effort in to have this discussion, to make sure I'm worthy of this raise. And I want to work with you that we're really closely monitoring my progress, that it's not just, I want this, give it to me, I'm already great. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. I want to know from you what's valuable. That's the tone of this. So again, starting the conversation through email. Sorry, I keep clicking my screen. Starting the conversation through email is going to make them feel prepared to have the conversation, not caught off guard. And they can come prepared as well, saying, okay, actually that salary is totally in range. Let's do it. Or, you know what, here's the reasons we're not ready to do that now, either for your performance or for company reasons. And then you can move through negotiation very similar to what we've already discussed. And you go through all of this and it's a no. Now, if this is for a job you're interviewing for, totally your call. If you need the job that badly, last offer left on the table and you have to take it. Or if it's when you had that discussion internally and they're saying no. Whatever it is, couple of things that's going to stick with the tone of this is professional, this is collaborative, this isn't a give me what I need or I'm going someplace else. This is going to really solidify for them you were serious about those things and not just saying it for the purpose of getting the raise. Ask questions. Anytime you ask questions, this is a power move. This is putting it on them. It shows your interest. It shows a willingness to learn. And it's giving you key insights that's going to help you through the rest of this. Some of those questions, what responsibilities are expected? So if you're going to give me this title, if you're going to give me this raise, what do I need to be prepared to do? And how can I start preparing myself for that now? What do I need to learn? What practice do I need to put in? What do I need access to? And are you willing to guide me in doing so? So I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to put the effort in. This is important to me, and I know it's going to impact the company. What levels of achievement do I need to hit to be worthy of a raise? So do I need to hit this sales target, hit this quota? If I'm responsible for HR, does my ramp up time for a new employee need to be a week sooner so they're productive a week sooner? What are those measurements, those benchmarks that if I hit these consistently, you'd be able to say, yes, okay, this is worth the compensation? How do I measure those? Do not leave this up to subjective interpretation. If you have children, you know how as the parent, this comes back and smacks you in the face every time. If you don't tell your kid, I need you to achieve exactly this way, by this time, they're going to come back as master little negotiators and say, but you said this. Here's my interpretation. You said I had to do this. I did this. How is it being measured? So it's black and white, no room for interpretation. You said hit this number. Here's this number. And then create an action plan. Again, you need to take ownership here and be willing and showing them through your actions that you are willing to put the work in, you want to put the work in, and you want their guidance and collaboration in doing so. Have clear dates and milestones. I need to achieve this by this point. Here's what that success looks like. Here's how to measure it. Make sure you have regular check-ins, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, based on what that time frame is, what's reasonable that you're actually able to make progress, and keep bringing it back to that. You know, I'm eager to learn. I love taking on these new responsibilities. It's been rewarding because of X, Y, and Z. We talked about hitting these benchmarks. Here's my progress. Do you see this as successful? In your opinion, what else could I be doing to be more successful here, and get that regular input so they can't come back when you just meet at the end and say, oh, but you should have done this sooner. You know exactly what that is, and you can avoid those obstacles before you even encounter them. If you have questions on any of those, sorry, hopefully I went through that where you could have jotted them down. Next steps. First, take a breath. I talk fast. This was a lot of information. So hopefully all of this resonated, all of this made sense, and you feel much more confident about this. Do your research. Everything we talked about in preparing, planning, my good God, role play. It'll be awkward. You will hate it. You will thank yourself when you are done because you will sound prepared. You will be professional. You will hit the key points, and you won't get thrown off guard by the stress and emotion in the moment. Your brain quite literally cannot be logical and emotional at the same time. So if you hit that point of emotion in the conversation and you haven't practiced the logic enough, you're not going to be able to bridge that gap and get back over to the other side. Role play. Know your top compensation and really finesse the dialogue that you're making all the key points we discussed, but you're doing it in a way that you can sound organic and genuine. But again, making sure you're hitting those clear points, being firm and neutral as all that dialogue demonstrated. All right, we have about 9 minutes. I think I answered all the questions that came through that throughout the conversation, so I will take a quick glance and make sure that's accurate.
Jen, thank you so much for that fantastic presentation. We have been keeping an eye on the chat, so I think unless it went to you privately, I think you did hit everything. There's some nice comments there. That we do have time to, I see the first question has come in. How does geographic location play as a role in salary ranges, i.e. 50,000 in New York City looks different than 50,000 in Cortland. So could you speak on that? And then please others be thinking of your questions. We have time.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect bridge there, Dan. Thank you. You are 100% correct. Your location and the location of the company plays a role here. Now, they know that. They're already taking that into consideration. The ranges that you look up online will take that into consideration as well. Some of those calculators will allow you to put in average cost of living in your area or indicate, I live in a metro area, I live out in the suburbs, I live up in a place like Cortland, however you want to define your area, your geographic location. But the companies do take that into consideration when they are making offers and determining their salary ranges, which is why a position has a range. Not everyone who does this job gets paid about this. Now, this may be something that is going to work against culture a little bit moving forward. If companies are allowing a true remote workforce, they may start taking advantage of that, recognizing that when I hire someone who lives in rural Idaho, they need a less lower salary than when I'm hiring someone right here in the Bay Area in San Fran. And they may start using that to their advantage, but it's absolutely something for you to keep in mind. So great catch there. How would you recommend getting salary negotiation while knowing the financial impact of the pandemic on your company? Ooh, good question, Emily. This is one of those moments to pick your battles, know where the flexibility is, and know how your company's doing. From that question, I'm going to guess that the company you work for may not be one of those that's thriving in this organization. So this may be something to either table for the moment, particularly if you're a company that they've done layoffs or salary reductions or things along those lines. They are aware of what they're doing to their employees. Hopefully they're doing it from a place of integrity to keep their employees able to make their daily living expenses while not putting the company bankrupt or having to lay off more people. If you feel like you're coming out of the recession for your company and that they're going to be on an upward trend, I think it would be okay to plant the seed at this point of, I know this has been a rough couple of months. You've had to make some really difficult decisions around the workforce and salary. As we're coming back through this, I know it's going to be important to everyone to discuss salary, how to bridge some of that gap, but I'd love to start working with you now on how I can make more of an effort, make more of a contribution, and demonstrate more value. So when that time comes, we're able to discuss that. So really play that gently. You don't want to be the person who comes in and says, hey, I know we're struggling, but I need more money, so find a way to do it. I'm sure that's not exactly how you would approach that, but it might be how it's received. So great question. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you there because it is definitely a tough time out there right now. If you're looking for a new career opportunity, though, there are a lot of industries and companies that are absolutely thriving. I think Zoom's an obvious one. They went from 10 million users to 200 million users. That is not an exaggeration in about 6 to 8 weeks' time. They are hiring. They're also one of my clients. I work with them very closely. They are hiring, they are thriving, and they are paying for talent. So a couple of things to consider there. Hopefully that gives you some insight. In all of Okay, there's another one that just popped through. A lot of companies are looking for diverse candidates so they can diversify their staff. Can one leverage that during the negotiation process? Work with God, leverage whatever you can, but do it in a way that, again, comes from the company's perspective. The way to approach that might be, I love everything you're doing as an organization. I've researched you. I love your core values. I think I can bring a unique perspective to the organization, considering my diverse background, but be prepared to say something about that. Not just coming in where me as a woman, as a woman, I can give you a lot of insight that all these, older, very similar looking men, if you will, have a perspective of. That's not going to speak in my favor because I'm speaking to those older men who all look really similar. So know how to approach it of, I love what you're doing here. Any ego stroke and validity going to take you everywhere. Here's what I can contribute and why I think I can uniquely contribute that. So whatever you have working to your advantage, always use it. Just do it in a way that's going to keep you sounding professional. And again, what's in it for them? Great questions. All right.
We probably have time for one or two more questions.
Exactly.
Anybody else? Feel free to put it in the chat, or we have a small group, so you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask if you would like.
And if something comes up afterward, I have kept my email address on the screen. That's my personal email, so I'll see it a lot sooner than if it goes into my business email, is why I put that on there. So feel free to message me offline, find me on LinkedIn, whatever would be beneficial to you. I am happy to continue chatting. Quick side note about my website. I noticed my host was having an issue. They notified me of this morning. So for right now, it looks like my site doesn't exist. I promise it does, and I promise I have a legit company. So just quick FYI.
Got it.
All right.
Jen, I will ask one question just because
Please.
we may have some folks on the line who work for organizations that have collective bargaining and unions. And I wondered if you would recommend modifying some of these steps in trying to negotiate a salary when you're in a union environment.
Yes, that is a great question. I am a big proponent of the strength in numbers. So anytime you can leverage something that works on your behalf that way, whether you're a teacher or whatever the situation may happen to be, definitely work with others that are part of that organization, with your reps. Make sure you're making a clear case and that you're preparing them the same way you've prepared yourself. So they're prepared to have that conversation on your behalf and absolutely go to bat for you. So definitely take advantage of that if you have that at your disposal. That's usually a huge negotiation tool.
Great, that's amazing. Well, I'm looking at the hour. It is 12:58. I think that is all we have for today, but I want to thank you again, Jen, for such a fabulous presentation with a lot of takeaways. Thurno is asking, where can we access this recording? And Shauna, I will let you answer that. I think it'll be on the My Red Dragon Network.
Yes, it will be on the Red Dragon Network. I will actually put the link over to the virtual community. It probably won't be up till the end of the week, but this is where you can go to grab it off the chat if you'd like.
I know we had a few people who left early because they had to go. And so I think they'll want to catch the end of this because this was fabulous. So
excellent. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. Like I said, feel free to reach out, connect in any way you would like to. I love connecting with professionals, particularly alumni. So thank you guys again for hosting me, and I look forward to collaborating with you sometime in the future.
Thank you, Jen.
Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you, Jen.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't figure out how to exit.
The little X at the bottom. I think you have an X.
Thanks, ladies. I
That was
appreciate it.
really great, Jen. We do some of the AUW Start Smart salary negotiation workshops for students. I saw a bunch of alumni on here who were young alumni, and I think this was fabulous. And the reason I asked that
Awesome.
question is that a couple of them I know are either working in school districts or they're working for colleges and universities that are unions. So, just kind of researching pay grades, and all your advice would apply to them. I just didn't want them to get discouraged by like things like signing bonuses and, things that, clearly they're not going to get.
Absolutely.
But no, it was really great. You've got a terrific style. So
Yes, I love it.
yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was great. Well,
Excellent.
enjoy
I don't mean
90
to
degree
jump.
weather.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.